My fellow Americans, it is time to take our freedom back.
All right. Getting used to doing this without the ears is kind of different, huh?
It is, yeah.
You miss hearing your voice with those on, don't you?
I do. It's like the God voice, you know? It makes it sound really sexy, man. You know?
Barry White.
I know. Yeah. Let's start singing. Shoot.
You're going to start making rap songs?
No, but I heard that, you know, we have a new rap artist here in Reading, you know. Maybe Jeremy will start
He's really
producing them
talented.
downstairs, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Jeremy ought to offer him
Free producing.
producing of an album.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So we have a special guest here today, Tommy Carroll. Yes. You guys might have seen Tommy throughout the coverage of the Zapata / Pinckney / everybody else trial over the last 6 months. Tommy is a bartender.
Currently is, yeah.
At Market Street Steakhouse. I still call it Market Street. I know it's Barrel now.
It's
you know?
part of it, yeah. It's the same difference, yeah.
And which still is one of my favorite places to go eat. So tell us a little bit about why you're here, Tommy. Yeah. I think it's people want to understand, you know, what happened throughout the trial, because they got tidbits, they got clips,
right,
snapshots throughout the trial. But as we're moving on here, we're sort of trying to put this thing together to make sense of what the hell happened.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a question. How do you guys know each other?
Simply from
through the restaurant, through
restaurant.
Market Street. Yeah. So I don't know. I probably met you and Rebecca 6 months to a year ago, not too long ago.
Yeah.
Probably about a year ago. And that was our relationship, if you will, was through the restaurant as customer to employee. But yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think there was a little bit of that speculation. I thought, oh, those are Carl's buddies. They'll say whatever.
Yeah. And I was going to say, with people trying to figure out what was going on, I think there's a lot of misinformation as well. And that's part of why I wanted to come in, just to...
So I'm going to let you talk, man, and we're sort of just going to intervene and ask questions and interject when we can, you know, if we have any questions. Yeah. But I'd love to hear your side of the story.
Yeah, definitely. So I worked, to preface the whole thing, I guess, I've been at Market Street for approximately 5 years. I worked with Nathan for maybe a year, and we always had a fairly good relationship as far as work. I knew right from the beginning. I found out who he was, and I knew we would have very opposite beliefs, not only politically, but on a lot of stuff. But he always kept it out of the workplace for the most part. So we always had a good working relationship. And as time went on, I think he got more comfortable with, he had a little bit more of a platform now via social media, and he was more comfortable with saying things that he felt he could get away with. And then, and to be honest, I was pretty much out of the know as far as what was going on with you guys, or with you and Nathan, I should say. And I didn't even know what was going on until that night. I didn't know that anything was going on, so we'll jump forward to that night. And I came in, showed up at work. Scott Odell and Brennan Odell were both there. They were doing some paperwork and stuff out front. And when I got there, they were talking to Nathan, and not verbatim, but something along the lines of keep your outside life away from work. Keep it on social media. Don't bring it to work, basically. Sure. And so I thought, okay, something new's going on, because I knew there had been a little bit in the past. Yeah. And
we sort of been ramping up, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's
propaganda, if that's what you want to call it.
Exactly. Yeah. Because, and in fact, I mean, you guys were cordial for a while.
Yeah, well, that was fun.
Cordial to say the least. And so I thought, okay, something's going on. And sure enough, there was, you know, a lot of stuff going on. Like you said, it was ramping up. So I kind of got a little bit filled on what was going on, and I still didn't quite know the extent of how pissed off he was or whatever his deal was. So not too long after I get to work, I don't remember exactly what time it was. I think it was probably 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that. You came in for dinner, and you guys sat down there and went to place your order. And in the back of my mind, I thought, okay, you know, again, I don't know how serious this is or whatever's going on, but I'm just going to go ahead and bring you guys in under something else. Because normally I put...
Let me ask you something. Yeah. Did it seem like I was there to beat somebody up?
No.
Anything different about where
No, it was. I would call it and I would call it.
That's what was funny about it.
Yeah.
You sat in that corner because you knew there wasn't a camera there.
I highly doubt you knew that there was a blind spot. I mean, it's like, I don't know.
Think about that.
And that's the whole thing. That's people jumping to conclusions.
My wife was not wearing a wig.
Yeah, like there was some greater conspiracy going on, and it's like, no, that was literally just.
If you were to go to that lengths, you'd have just caught him somewhere in a dark alley.
And why would you do it in a public place, right?
Yeah,
where it
you're
could
gonna
be-
go in the
yeah.
bar and
In
create this whole
retrospect.
thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But
Can't even say it jokingly here.
yeah, these days, yeah, exactly. But anyway, so nothing seemed out of the ordinary as far as what was going on with your interaction at the restaurant. So I did ring in everything under a different name, and I don't remember what I called it, but nothing tied to you, nothing that would somebody in the kitchen.
Sure.
When they get their tickets, it says table number 123 or Carlos or Tommy or whatever, and so it came through as some nondescript like Enders or something because you guys were at the end of the bar.
Sure.
And it was brought to my attention shortly after you guys had eaten, or at least after you had your food. I was told by another coworker, Liam Growl, who was in the trial as well. And he had said, hey, just a heads up, Nathan came over and asked me. He was poking around the corner, and he was asking me if the couple at the end had got their food yet. And so I looked just to see, and it was you guys were the only ones there. And I was like, well, yeah, they got their food. And he goes, okay. I just thought it was weird. He kept asking that question because he asked it a couple times, I believe. Yeah. And he seemed pretty persistent.
Well, I told my wife, I said, look, he's peeking around the corner. He kept doing
Oh,
it.
could you see him?
Yeah, he kind of like kept peeking around the corner,
I figured he wasn't.
And I was like, shit, this guy's going to try to start something,
Exactly, yeah. And so I was like, okay, we need to, I'll keep that in the back of my mind just in case. And the night went on for a short period of time there. And sure enough, I don't know what was said or what he, I guess he just got the balls to come up and come down at the end of the bar. And he literally came between you and I, or the bar and I, and he was kind of, trying to make it, in my opinion, he was making it seem like he was trying to be, ask me a question quietly and stay out of the limelight. And it's like, hey man, if you walk all the way down to the end of the bar, not like it's a huge distance, but if you walk from over here all the way down to the end of the bar where you didn't even need to be to begin with, to ask me if we're closing the restaurant early, in my opinion, that's excuse my language, it was kind of a bullshit question to be asking.
Yeah.
It was, or I should say, at least irrelevant for that time. You could have waited. If you know you have a problem with this person, why would you walk all the way down there unless you wanted to start something? You could have said, hey, you know what? I can see they don't have any food. Maybe they'll be gone in 5 minutes. I can ask him then. It was not like a time-sensitive thing to find out right now if we're closing the restaurant early. So that was my take on that.
Sure.
And then after everything happened with the whole water glass incident, which I thought was pretty funny.
Water splash case.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, to confirm.
Splash case.
Which I love that the DA's office was kept bringing.
So
this into play.
there was a guy. Let me stop you right there. I think people have kind of heard some version of this story.
Yeah.
A lot of times, So let me interject.
Yeah.
There was a guy who literally said that I grabbed a glass and threw it at his head, and it shattered on his head. I said, how'd you get that from this?
From this, right? Exactly. That motion. Yeah.
And I think Nathan, somebody sent me something where he posted that on his social media a couple of days ago, talking about his witnesses. Well, why were those witnesses not called by the
How
district
many
attorney
witnesses
then?
did he end up having? Sorry to interrupt you, but
There was
You
none.
guys were the prosecution.
You were the prosecution's witnesses.
Yeah, and so we haven't talked about it as well.
It was you and Liam and
What's my thing called?
Darnell, or what was the guy's name?
Oh, Ken. Scalia.
Cornelius and against
And Ken.
Ken.
Yeah, Ken. So there was Ken. And
So,
Kenneth.
but they were all the prosecution's witnesses.
Which
the only witness we had was my wife, Rebecca. That's the one we called.
And I thought that's part of one thing I wanted to talk about too, was the whole judicial process and the court process.
Let's talk about that because I think everybody by now has heard the story.
Exactly. Yeah.
Unless you have a different take from anything people have already heard.
No, the one thing I did want to say, and I did want to try and sneak it in court, and I don't think I was, if I remember correctly, I wasn't able to. But my thing from the beginning was, approximately, would you say, if I was Nathan behind the bar and you're sitting at the bar, are we about the same distance apart?
Sure.
My argument the whole time was, any able-bodied person, if I wanted to hit you with something, I could easily do it. You wouldn't have missed him if you wanted to hit him.
100%.
That was my thing from the beginning, and unfortunately, the one thing I do want to mention before we get right into the court thing was I'd spoken with an officer from the police department, and that was part of the DA's thing, was that I flipped my testimony.
They try to get you on that.
Right, and make me look like a liar, which is pretty irritating. But and to be honest, I don't even remember telling that officer that it was intentional, because when I was reading it, when the DA's office gave me the transcript of our interview, or my interview, I thought I said that's funny, because I've been telling people all along that it was to me in my.
I think
opinion,
sometimes cops have a way of asking questions where you can sort of misunderstand a question. I've been there.
And I was also I was in the middle of work, so I was trying to wrap up and be quick but so I thought that was funny, and then unfortunately that gave them being the DA's office to kind of spin everything. But
how was your interaction with the DA? Did you have interaction with Nolan Weber?
I did, yeah. So it was all via text and phone for the first part of it. And the first time I actually met him in person was, I believe it was at the courthouse. It might have been on the second or third day. Everything was, because there was a lot of delays. Sure. So I don't remember exactly. It was my first time there, and I met him, and he seemed, professional, very nice. And so I was pleased to see that. Unfortunately, when things carried on, I mean, I say this knowing he has a job to do, but as it carried on, it kind of,
and I was told that, I said it last time, that Joseph Toliar, my attorney, said, "Hey man, he just seems like a real nice guy right now, but once they start trial, man, he's gonna be trying to bite you below the belt, and that's real hard."
And no disrespect to Toliar and the great attorneys out there, but I mean, attorneys can be like that, and that's part of their job. I feel like is to give that front at least until they have to go after.
Absolutely,
it, so.
Well, they want to win.
Exactly, yeah, and I understand that, and I try not to take things like that personally, but it was like, man, you kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but So, but anyways, so we can move forward to trial.
During the trial, what are some things that you noticed? What are some thoughts maybe that went through your head that we weren't privy to? Because I guarantee you, I mean, you're trying to rehearse,
process,
for lack of a better word, of what you're going to say. Because you don't want to say the wrong thing. You want to be able to tell the accurate truth. Your perception of it.
Yeah, and that was obviously get the truth out, because there was, what's the best way to put it? Misinformation. Again, I come back to that. A lot of misinformation about what went on, and this one side is being told the loudest. And I think it was important that your side, and in my opinion, the truth of what actually happened gets out. And that was being masked or covered a little bit, if you will.
Sure.
But it was interesting to see the court process in that way. I've been in court a couple times for other things. I was a law enforcement official, not a sworn peace officer, but I did have a job before where I had to go to court a couple times.
Sure.
So I was vaguely familiar with it, and it was cool to see it in that aspect live and be a part of it. But I was a little disappointed with the way that the whole thing was going. I felt like there was no need for you to be there in that capacity. I didn't feel like we needed to be there in that capacity. And if anything, it should have been flipped around, and there should have been blame but being shifted towards the person that had a gun and was waving it around.
That's a question I got the most, hands down, over and over again. The question I got the most from people was, why the hell is he not getting charged?
And, right. And that's... And
I could never answer that.
I've had a lot of people ask me that as well, and I don't have an answer either. It baffles me. I'm sure we're all in the same boat.
What sort of leads us to what we've been talking about, that it might be a political deal, right? It might be a hit.
I would... Absolutely.
Coming from the DA's office via somebody else.
Absolutely.
And you said it right away.
I would say, I think
when he was the first person I called, after the incident, and I think we knew that was going to be a hit.
It was coming.
No, it was going to be an easy, attack for them.
It was low hanging fruit at that point,
Yeah.
But, and now going towards from Splashgate, which I was actually absolved of that, that kind of went away. Now we're talking about towards what happened at the back of the restaurant, which to me is a more incriminating part. If you're just watching the video, you have no other context.
No
three people walking up on one, which I explained that from the beginning, and my story never changed. So it's I understand your frustration, because my biggest frustration was people saying online, "Oh, Carlos keeps changing his story." I said, I never once changed my story. I've told the same story every single time, which is the only way I saw it.
And I'm in that same position now, where
it's me going there to
flip my story.
And I wasn't going there to help Liz and Chris. I was going there to help them in the sense that I wasn't going there to help them beat somebody up. I was going there to help them not be in
de-escalate
bigger trouble than they could have been. And the first thing I said to my wife when I came back to the car was like, "Glad I went, because that could have really been a shit show." That could have gotten really, really bad. For whatever had transpired between the time that I left the restaurant and came back to the back,
Yeah.
It could have really, really went bad.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Chris had that tank.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Pinckney was real close to his gun. I mean, it could have really went bad had you not been there.
And if you watch the video, here's what we were up against, though. And you said it. There was a lot of misinformation being pumped out there really loudly and really often. We were up against
get on your mind.
we were up against a side that had already put the video out with their own narration, and that was being shared everywhere. People saw that, you know. And I remember when the first police report came out, not the actual report, but when their Facebook, their what do you call it? Their public,
It's a
public statement. You know? Yeah. Their PSA.
Yeah.
It came out. I was so relieved. I was like, oh, finally. Finally, they got it. Law enforcement got it right, you know? And I was really pleased. I said, man, the cops saw it for what it was. You know, the report was correct. Everything seemed clear.
Yeah.
There was a couple things that were off, but it didn't change anything one way or the other, you know what I mean? But then it seems like after that, the DA kind of ramped it up. Where they're like, all right. You know.
But you remember
LA article.
the Sacramento or the LA Times was up, and they were trying to make it into this big racial deal, and all of a sudden,
why would they
How did that get
follow
there?
that? I know.
That's what I was confused. I thought it was a load at first.
Which makes it to me political, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
It's because of red, white, and blueprint.
100%. Yeah, there was
100%
nowhere in
that's
that
why they're
police
up there.
report that the investigating officer said, hey, I think there should be charges here.
Right.
No,
Right.
I recommend charges. They said, no, absolutely not. You know? And I think they were baffled. And I have friends at RPD who are like, dude, we do not understand what the hell just happened. Like, I have a friend, who's been in law enforcement 30 years. Who said, dude, in my 30 years of law enforcement, I've never seen any bullshit like this, you know?
And I talked to DA investigators, I've said before, that have said they've never seen the DA take up a case when law enforcement recommends that they don't, unless a supervisor or somebody in pretty high place asks them to do so.
There's something
it was
else
such a
going on.
waste
So
of
now-
resource. I mean, I know, stay with the details, but that's the overarching thing that everybody's so inflamed about.
Right.
I mean, that's $500,000. Just,
And this is why we're going
it
to get rid of
just
this
blown.
DA.
Yeah.
We have to get rid
What?
of this DA.
To make sure you learn your lesson not to disturb the peace, which was false anyway. I mean, it's a waste of time.
Now, people watching this who are not on our side might say, well, you know what? These guys are bitching, but a jury of your peers found you guilty. 12 people found you guilty. So this is why we're so baffled, because I'm like, dude, what did they see that we didn't?
That we're not
you know,
seeing, yeah.
and vice versa. You know, like, well, what are they not seeing here? You know, because there was something, and we go back to what we said last time.
The
where
jury kind of got tampered with, in my opinion.
I think somebody got to them. They read something. There's no way that they went from a 11-1 or 10-2 favoring us to all of a sudden flipping, you know, when they came back from the
removed
COVID
it.
It's a
break.
big swing.
Yeah, they came back 2 weeks later after somebody had COVID, and all of a sudden they changed their mind. So how did that happen?
Yeah.
You
There's
read
a lot
something,
of
somebody got
propaganda
to
in the media, you know, and maybe that might have been influencing people, because just the way that headlines and stories and articles get, you know, wrote, it seemed like, you know, maybe that might have been an influence.
Yeah.
Well, and a juror did get removed on the second to last day.
There was.
Because he wouldn't move his position of not guilty. So
Yeah,
I mean, I've never heard of that.
That's
well,
a big question.
he also made the mistake of using the words jury nullification. You know, he did say, he goes, well, what about jury nullification? You know, where to me, and let's be honest, jury nullification is at the bedrock of our democracy, of our freedom. You know, it really is, because I should be able to say, hey, you know what? Maybe Tommy Carroll broke the law, but he should be punished for it. He didn't hurt anybody. There was no victim. You know, it's a victimless crime. Nothing happened. You know, so common sense needs to be invoked here into the law, where often it's not. And so how we end up with people like me being guilty of a crime and being on probation for years, because people said, you know what? Well, he was driving 36 and 35. You know,
Yeah.
When
He
that
broke the
juror
law.
said this was all political,
and
he was telling the truth, and the rest
We
of
don't
the
want him
jurors,
to get him.
Yeah, we better
get him
get
out,
rid of
yeah.
that guy.
And I was gonna say,
Obviously, this was an intimidation factor. You know, I mean, they're going after you. They're going after Alyssa.
What they're saying to people is
they're
like,
trying
hey,
to send
watch,
a
we got
message.
Carl Zapata, we can get you too. You know,
which
we'll
is
get everybody.
ironic.
They're not just trying to take the momentum out of a movement by taking out someone who's in one of the head, you know, leaders of the movement, but they're also sending a message out to everybody else saying, hey, we're coming
in line.
after your ass
Don't try
next.
this. Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead,
And I was just going to say it's ironic that you had said that. There's two things I want to say, but first of all, because I was asked during the trial, it was one of the last questions by Nolan Weber. He said, "Have you been contacted by anybody else outside on?" He didn't say Carlos Zapata's side, but essentially it would be that.
Sure.
And I said, "Yeah." You know, he kind of asked briefly about that, and then he said, "Have you been? Have you felt threatened or?" Pressured by anyone on. And I think I almost laughed, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Where's this? You're trying. Obviously, I see where you're going with this. I was like, no, just stop.
They try to take you down a road.
They do.
That's what
100%,
they
yeah.
do. This is the information road I want to take you down,
Yeah.
and they try to keep you on that
And
road.
as long as they can keep you there and get little bits here and there where they can spin it their way. But
so in order for the jury to get to the conclusion that they came to,
Yeah.
they had to disbelieve every single witness, including Cornelius.
Well, that's what the DA told him to do. He told him to disbelieve him in his closing arguments.
Absolutely. You want to talk a little bit about the closing arguments too, right?
Yeah, and I wish I would have watched the full thing. I haven't had an opportunity to yet, but I had watched parts of it, mostly of where he more or less called me a liar, which frustrated me. And again, I know that's his job, but it was like, I just magically.
Why call me as a witness? You were there. We didn't call you as a witness. You were there a witness.
Yeah. So and that's
that son of a bitch called you.
Yeah, which is weird. And there was no. And I was told, and I could be incorrect on this, but there was typically, I feel like you prep witnesses, correct, or you at least you kind of walk through the phases. And we were simply called, and there was not great communication as far as I'd like to add that there was not great communication as far as when we would be needed or if we weren't needed. And a lot of us ended up showing up there, waiting around. And I know the court process is very complicated, but there was a lot going on, and a lot of us that was why a lot of us being the witnesses were frustrated, because it was like, well, hey, we've showed up here and then you don't communicate with us. We don't hear from you. And that was just a whole thing. But it was just, and I thought it was weird that we were called as witnesses by the prosecution. And I guess that would be that way we're there and they can, I don't want to say in their control, but they have control over what we're ready for and whatnot, versus if the defense calls us, we can go through this list of what's going on.
100%. What a mess. Look at all the people affected by splashed water and one punch.
Yeah.
And I still have to just go back to that. I mean, how off are we?
This is where our priorities
lie.
We're going to
it makes it a scary place to live. That place, I don't mean geographic place. I mean just a cultural place to live where we have to walk scared.
Right.
Where now if somebody bumps into me, somebody grabs my wife, somebody says something to my wife that's offensive, something.
Yeah.
I'm scared to do anything.
Yeah, God forbid you retaliate.
I
or
mean,
stand
my
up for
nuts
yourself.
are cut, which sucks. It's no way to live.
No.
No way we should live.
No.
But that's what we've gone to now. And I got to tell you, since this incident, I've thought so many times, like, man, what happens if I actually get into a situation where I have to defend myself?
Right.
Mm-hmm. Am I going to be able to?
Well, especially
or am I going to fear the repercussions of the law?
It depends on where you sit politically. Obviously, that's been proven.
That's the problem. That culture can change with the DA change, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Carlos, I'm going to tell you straight up: if someone was getting murdered on the same freaking street and you jaywalked across that street, dude, your ass is done. You're jaywalking. We're going to have a jury trial, bud, to find out if you jaywalked or not.
Sure. Now, why would I have chosen to go to trials? Because I was innocent. I am innocent. Yeah. I'm sitting here an innocent man.
Yeah.
As I see it, and as most people that were there, everybody that was there sees it. So I was offered an infraction. I could have walked away from the scene for like $250, and never gone to trial. And in retrospect, now I probably should have done that.
But good on you at the same time.
But it came down to the fact that I knew I was innocent.
Right.
I knew I could maintain my innocence, and I thought I'd get proven.
Well, they were asking you to say you were guilty when you knew you were innocent.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. And I didn't want.
And they can hang that over your head.
And we
later.
talked about this at length, where I said, you know what, I'm not going to give them anything.
Yeah, and the optics of that, because the whole thing was for optics. Now they can say, look, there's an assault charge. They leave it so open, right? Yeah. Carlos was on trial and and now red, white, and blueprints. Everybody's violent now.
That's a double-edged sword, though.
It's all about the optics. So if you would have admitted that, then they could have just, the optics would have been terrible.
So where do we go from here, having people like this in our society?
Unfortunately, society is just the place now where those people are allowed. I shouldn't say they have more of a platform where they can speak out, which freedom of speech all the way, absolutely. But these people are allowed this platform where they can speak, and now they think they can just do whatever they want, essentially. And unfortunately, in cases like this, people are allowed to get off basically scot-free with things.
But people are starting to put some pressure on, right, where people like that aren't going to be let into bars or restaurants, or people are going to say, I don't want that liability. I don't want that person sitting in my bar.
And I did want to ask one thing. Sorry to cut you off, but it was only brought to my attention in your video. Last year he was arrested or cited for having some firearms charge or something?
He was.
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, he was. He illegally transported a firearm, and the person that let him off the hook was Nolan Weber, So.
And gosh, I am so glad in that episode too. It really, they nailed it, because you see that disgusting picture of him holding a trophy.
Yeah.
After
the
this debacle of a case that he didn't even really win. And then he gets an award.
Yeah, exactly.
The shame that I would have felt. I'm like, where?
I would be embarrassed.
What is happening?
He's a shameless individual. I don't know. I mean, I like to respect people based on the jobs that they do. I understand it's a very important job to be a deputy DA, right? But you have to have that job with integrity. Hold it with integrity.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
It's sacred. I mean,
In that
people's
position
lives
you're in.
are in your hands.
Yeah.
You know, and for you to do what you did here, you know, I'm not going to forget that ever.
No.
Well,
you
and
know?
then to award a guy, is there no other cases going on? Is there no other crimes
We have
that
nothing
need,
better to do
people
than-
that? Yeah, exactly. It's like really, that's what we're going to put on a pedestal.
Here's
and
your
award
gold
the guy
star and your
for,
cookie and-
which would
Sure.
you know, anyone that's looking at this objectively would have to say it was probably politically motivated, right? And then it was over what? And now he got an award.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely. Well, this is why my new fight now is like, hey, we have to remove this DA, you know, and her staff. I mean, you know, her underlings. You know, people, you're just as bad. If your
Right.
boss tells you to do something, you know, is morally incorrect, morally bad.
Yep.
You got to go against it. Or
You should take
find
the
a
high
job.
road. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Or whatever you want to call it. But yeah.
And push
As
back.
horrible as this is, I think that on the positive side of it is that it exposed a lot of this corruption.
Yeah.
You know, that might not have been exposed. You know, without you taking one for the team. You know, so as bad as negative as this whole thing was, and as draining as it was, you know, it shed light on you know, corruption, and people are starting to pay attention. And these guys have been getting away with just doing whatever they want for so long because nobody was paying attention, and now people are saying, you know what, this is insane.
Yeah.
This is absolutely.
Well, it's kind of flipped, right? To where we grew up thinking that defense attorneys were the real scumbags, you know, the dirt balls, right? Where now I'm like, shit, man. They're on both sides.
Yeah.
And now I'm thankful for good defense attorneys, you know,
Yeah,
because
right,
I see what the laws become.
Well, there's bad DAs out there.
Sure.
And this was just kind of a perfect storm, right? Between the politics of us trying to get control of our county, and at the same time all the racial tensions in America, and man, the media just looking to sensationalize anything. So I mean, they came up all
BLM
the way
activists.
from
You know,
LA.
notice the articles. All the articles that were written were militia member versus BLM activist.
Yeah,
right.
You know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They want to paint the picture. It's
Well,
That's what he
100%.
always
versus the
saying.
other.
And it's so bad. It's
White
so
supremacist,
pathetic, yeah.
Carlos Zapata.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh god.
BLM.
The Peruvian white
member.
supremacist.
Oh, it's a fight. No, but I actually read this the other day where people were writing, well, he doesn't have to be white to be a white supremacist.
Oh yeah, that's a whole
You and
thing
Larry
right
Elder.
now.
I was about to say, Larry Elder.
I know, right?
What
But here, you know, the only race baiter in this whole thing is Nathan.
Yeah.
He said, right, as soon as he said a black man cannot get any justice in Shasta County,
Yeah.
the
He
DA
said
went,
that?
oh yeah,
Jesus.
oh yeah.
And and Nathan is he's the epitome of all the worst parts of our society. He's just a loser, can't keep a job. I mean, all he does is go around causing.
It seems like there's always trouble that
Yeah,
follows.
he's
Or not
just a
maybe
now he's
follows.
making
scumbag and a
rap
half.
songs. There's just every other word is F Carlos. I'm like,
Yeah,
Talking about wife and
Yeah,
whatnot.
yeah,
you know
he's
what my
talking
son
about your
said.
wife
My
and
son said it best. My 16-year-old son heard that and goes, "Those are fatherless words." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes,
That's all right.
"That's something that somebody that never had a daddy says."
That's a
you
very
know?
in-depth
I was like,
and-
"It is, man.
and-
Fatherless
yeah.
words,
never,
man."
never,
you know?
never got the spankings
So,
he needed when he was little.
something like
Never
that.
had
And
a
then he's
daddy.
just trying. Now he's just trying to entice. Right. Let's make it clear.
Sure.
This is his
and
only.
his life
his only
sucks, right? I
platform
mean,
is
his
what you've
life
done.
sucks.
Yeah.
Why would you want to stay in a town like this where you're always looking over your shoulder? You're,
Somebody said that to me the other day,
Because
too.
that's
Yeah.
it. That's what he's identifying with.
Yeah.
It's negative, right? But the only thing that he has a platform is because of the platform you have.
Right.
Right.
And-
so
and
then he's just trying to latch
the worst
onto you
people
to
are the
stay
people that get
relevant.
behind him, right? The worst
Yeah.
people are the ones like cheerleading him on,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they're like, "Yeah, good job, man. Yeah, we're with you." Those people don't give a
you're
shit
not.
about him.
No,
It's
they're not.
it's
Yeah.
it's
Like Donnie
entertainment.
Chamberlain's
Yeah,
inviting him over for Christmas.
Oh,
No,
God.
no.
Well, and then you see the people when you actually meet them that are making the comments. I'm like, oh my, what a waste of time. The one guy, this buddy that was trying to give you the papers, and I thought it was a homeless dude coming up for panhandling, and he's serving Nathan's papers. I'm like, what is happening right now? I'm like, no, I'm not
It's a weird
Carlos,
crowd. Yeah,
but
it's a
thanks for the
weird crowd.
compliment.
I think that's something you'll never understand, though, because like like from our perspectives, it's hard to understand. Like, why do people cut themselves up? You know what I mean? And do like weird stuff like that. We're never going to understand that. Why people self-mutilate and self-destruct and sabotage, their own life and stuff. Maybe they just love the drama.
Well, he's
and the
imploding right
chaos.
now. I mean, he is absolutely imploding.
I think it's gonna fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna fall apart. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
It's you can only
He's
ride
desperate.
this kind of a wave for so long. I think before it completely falls apart because it's not productive to begin with.
Happy people
So-
don't do what he's doing.
Not healthy.
Exactly. It's not healthy. It's not.
I don't wake up
yeah.
in the morning going, "How can I fuck with somebody?"
Yeah, how can I ruin
With
someone's
law and
life?
Miserable
or,
place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Dude.
real dark.
No,
Yeah.
wake
It's
up and
not
do what you need to
sustainable.
do to get through the day, make your life better.
And that's one thing I want to say is that I just try and I go to work. I work a couple different jobs, but I try to go to work, just do my thing, be a productive member of society, and do right by other people. And unfortunately, there's people out there like him that bring people like us into their shit, and it's just we just get wrapped up in it.
And they think that we're always thinking about them, and I'm like,
no,
dude, I don't. Man.
We're trying to figure out how to support our families, our friends,
100%,
pay our bills, and have fun and whatever. And
Americans,
it'd be exactly
100%.
Have our freedoms.
And now, side note, you're a big gun guy.
Yes.
Right. Tell me about that. Are you? Do you shoot every week? Do you?
Not anymore. I'm unfortunately too busy. I would love to, but I don't
And
have
ammo
time
costs
to.
too much.
Yeah, let's not. Let's not sleep on that. That is totally true. I grew up shooting. I started shooting probably when I was 4 or 5. With assistance, but I've been shooting all my life, and I would like to shoot more often, but I still do. It's a skill that you have to. It's a perishable skill, so you need to stay up on it. But so I do shoot when I can.
How'd you grow up here in Reading?
I did, yeah. I spent a lot of time in northern Idaho, but I did grow up here.
Nice.
So,
man.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Second Amendment and firearms are always a hot topic, and it's always under fire. No pun intended. But it's crappy to see that something like that it's demonized, and on that note, I feel like if I was in that position where I had, and I don't currently, but I did have my CCW, especially at that time I did. But if
Nathan was unclear whether he had one or not. By the way,
that's what I said. So I wanted to ask. So he did.
He lied to the police about it. No, he didn't.
Because that's what something a lot of people ask me. They said, "Well, did he have a CCW?" And I said, "Honestly, I don't know."
Yeah.
And I doubted he did, but based off things he had said and obviously done, but I doubted he did. But even if I were to do that as myself and pull out a gun at work, loaded, and wave it around, and point it at my coworkers or customers or whoever, or make threats,
I'm gonna shoot
where
them
the hell would I be at? I would be in prison right now, I'm sure.
100%.
And it's like the double standard is what kills me, but.
It's a huge double standard. That's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
Tommy, it was great to have you, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We'll have you on again, man. It'd be fun.
It's a good time.
You obviously have a lot to say. And
I have a lot to say for sure. So yeah, awesome. But whenever.
One of the best bartenders in the North State too. I can't say he's the best because my bartenders would crucify me, but
that's understandable.
You could say
really
best in Reading.
Your bar,
Best in Reading.
But sure,
I
can say that.
Best in Reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on, guys. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for your
Appreciate
time.
it.
Carlos, don't jaywalk.
Yeah. I would take my ears off. You see how I sweat?
Yeah, you did.